On February 25, 1957, in the woods of Philadelphia, a discovery was made that would stall the local police department for decades. Inside a discarded cardboard box lay the body of a young boy, aged 4 to 6. The scene was a total vacuum of information. There were no identifying markers, no labels, and in the following weeks, not a single person came forward to claim the child. Police responded with a massive traditional mobilization. Detectives in fedoras and overcoats fanned out across the city, attempting to apply every manual investigative technique they knew. The case began as a standard homicide inquiry, but it quickly became a mystery unlike any the department had seen. Because investigators lacked the child's identity, they had no social circle to investigate and no point of origin to work backward from. To compensate for the lack of leads, police blanketed the city with physical flyers, hoping someone would recognize the boy's face. They spent thousands of hours canvassing, knocking on doors, and manually cross-referencing paper records in local hospitals and orphanages. These methods relied entirely on physical bridges, a living eyewitness, a paper birth certificate, or a direct tip from the public. Without any of those analog connections, the perpetrator remained invisible. The boy was eventually buried as America's unknown child. The failure to solve the case wasn't due to a lack of effort. It was a technological limit. In 1957, there was no way to solve a crime when the victim's social and physical history had been completely erased. Over the next 60 years, the investigation entered a state of suspended animation. Leads were followed and exhausted, but the file remained open. Despite the passage of time, the physical evidence, the box, the blanket, and the boy's clothing remained meticulously preserved in Philadelphia police evidence lockers. The case stayed in the department's archives, officially classified as cold and unsolved. In 2019, investigators took a different approach. They exhumed the boy's body. They were no longer looking for visible clues on the remains. Instead, they were attempting to extract microscopic, heavily degraded DNA that had been unreachable for over half a century. This marked the start of a process known as forensic genetic genealogy. First, technicians had to map a genomic profile from the 1957 sample. As this chart suggests, modern labs can now identify specific peaks of data, even in biological material that has been underground for decades. The map was uploaded to public databases, allowing investigators to search for matches among millions who voluntarily submitted DNA. By tracing these distant relatives backward through census records, the search narrowed to one specific family branch. This process bypassed the barriers of 1957. By using modern database transparency, investigators were able to calculate an identity that had been missing for 65 years. On December 8, 2022, the long-standing mystery of the boy's identity was officially resolved. The genomic mapping was conclusive. The child was identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. While the science has identified the who, the how and why of Joseph's death remain an open investigation. Now that police have his name and family history, the homicide case is active again. Detectives are currently working through new leads generated by his newly discovered biological background. Joseph's identification shows how cold case units are changing. Even without living witnesses, an identity is established by matching modern records with old physical evidence. This identification suggests that a case is only cold relative to the tools of its time. When evidence is preserved, it can hold answers that only become visible as our methods of analysis improve.